Hi everybody, so today's video is on the topic of why you should stop following fitness influencers on Instagram, YouTube, etc. Except my channel, of course. As always, like, comment, subscribe, tell me which one to see in future videos. So the thing that happens whenever I set out to make content for my blog, for videos, anything like that, the question I'm always asking myself is, okay, how does this help the person who is seeing it? How am I making someone's life better today? How am I helping solve a problem or answer a question that someone has? And let's be honest, most fitness people are not like that. That's not what most people in the fitness, sort of online social media sphere are all about. These are just people who are hot and jacked and they're narcissistic and they want an online following. So most of what they're going to be doing is just going to be showing off. They're going to be showing off their bodies. They're going to be doing dumb stuff. They're going to be clowning around for the camera, showing off, showing how much, they can lift, showing, how much muscle they have, showing them doing goofy stuff that you wouldn't normally, think of doing. Because that's what they're not really trying to make your life better. They just want to show off. They just want to build a following. And that's great. That can be good fun. There's plenty of those types that I do follow on my own Instagram, that, it's like, at the end of the day, whatever. And of course, there's so many of those accounts that are just like aggregation content, pictures of scantily clad women doing squats or whatever, and that works for some people, whatever. But the problem is that all of this content is work. At the end of the day, posting stuff online, yes, some people are doing it for fun and, things just happen, but most people are not doing that. They are posting content that is very carefully thought out, and it is work for them. They're spending a lot of time doing it. And so at the end of the day, they don't want to do that for free. No one wants to work for free. No one wants to put a lot of time into something and get nothing out of it. So somewhere down the line, they're going to try to monetize. And when they try to monetize, that usually means that they're going to try and sell you a product. So this can be supplements. This can be sort of, just like really basic training programs that really aren't very good, honestly. It's rarely coaching or anything more substantive because they're not really trying to build a relationship with you in particular. They're just trying to sort of build a general following and get, the maximum possible return on sort of their effort. And so, the kind of stuff that they sell is not necessarily going to be the kind of stuff that is going to require a lot of time effort from them. Like if you order, a supplement online and, they get a cut of that, that's money in their pocket that they didn't really have to think about or, spend much of any time aside from just the normal making content part of things. It's not something like coaching, which is, sort of you're developing a relationship with somebody and, it takes a lot more time and you've got to, sort of put a lot more effort into it to really, get money out of it. So, these people it's not 100%, but most of them are at the end of the day just trying to make money off of you somehow or another. And, that's not a good relationship. That's not a good sort of, that's not sort of a good way to be. It's not really, it's not really going to benefit you much at all at the end of the day. And so I just don't recommend getting into that sort of thing. And worse, this can be a huge issue in terms of, body image issues. So, you look at these really, hot guys and girls, these really awesome lifters. You don't know how much work they've put in. You don't know how many hours they spend training. Maybe they don't have a day job aside from just being this online fitness personality. So they don't even have to go to, like a job. This is their job. And so they get paid to do this and they can train as much as they want and still, have, they can still look good and they don't have those sort of normal, day-to-day concerns that most of us have, where we have to go to a job and then we have to deal with our kids and we have to, deal with our car breaking down and X, Y, and Z. And then we still have to fit in lifting at the end of that, with the amount of time that we have left over. You don't know how many years they've been training. Someone who's been training for 20 years is obviously going to look a lot better than someone who's been training for 1. You don't know what their genetics are like. You don't know what supplement routine they're following. And I say supplement with air quotes for a reason. You don't know if this is Photoshop. I don't even remember the name of it, but there was that scandal a few years back where that one, company had basically just Photoshopped a bunch of their athletes to look bigger, in like all their Instagram photos. That's real. It's a thing that happens. You don't know if this physique that they're showing you is what they look like normally on a day-to-day basis, or if it's just sort of something that they're peaking to show off for the camera. Bodybuilders are not generally in 100% peak, contest shape all year round. So, they're going to be in peak contest shape for really like a very small, maybe a few weeks or a month or two, just out of like a whole year, depending on just how much they compete and what their schedule looks like and all that. So typically they're going to train a whole year to look good, and then they're going to take a lot of photos when they look good, and they're going to share all those around the rest of the year. And, you're not going to see the side where they're, holding on to a little bit extra weight because they're bulking or whatever. You don't know any about any of this stuff that goes on behind the camera. All of this stuff can be super misleading, and it can also be super demotivating. So it's fun to look at this sort of stuff at first, looking at like these videos of like Arnold and his peak condition, or, looking at like, this guy or that guy and sort of comparing their physiques. That's sort of fun at first. But over time, it becomes discouraging. It becomes demotivating because you keep looking at those people and you say, why can't I look like that? Why don't I look like that yet? And, that's not a good way to do things. It just sort of bombards your brain with images of people who are better than you. You're basically sort of using that sort of cognitive bias in your head, that survivorship bias, to pick out all the people in the world who, by definition are some of the most jacked and best looking people in the world. And you've made that into sort of your normal everyday sort of, that's your news feed. You just see this news feed scroll by of all the, the best people in the world. And to you, that's become normal. And once you normalize that, then you start to see yourself at a lower level and you say, well, why don't I look like that? And the answer is, of course, because, by definition, you're not one of those people. You need to be thinking about progressing in terms of your own sort of level, about making every day, that you train, you're going to be a little bit better than you were previously, and you're not going to worry about, what's going on over here, what this guy's doing, what this girl is doing, just because it's going to be demotivating, and it's going to throw you off of thinking about your own path forward, because your path forward needs to be the thing that you are thinking about at all times. You may never be as strong as the strongest guy or girl in the world, but you can be stronger than you were a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. You can always be better on your own terms, and that's what you should be thinking about and focusing on, instead of just looking at these most jacked people in the world and worrying about them, because they are not doing the same for you. It's not a two-way street there. So, my recommendation, of course, is, as always, try to focus on the stuff that is actually geared towards you. So typically this kind of stuff is going to be put out by coaches rather than athletes. So when you see athletes, which is to say, bodybuilders, powerlifters, strongmen, when you see them putting out their content, they're just trying to show off because they're athletes and they're trying to make money off of being an athlete. When you are talking about a coach, someone who coaches these types of lifters, yes, they are kind of trying to show off, but they're trying to show off knowledge. They're trying to show off that they know a lot about lifting and about exercise and about how your body adapts and about how to work with people, so that they can convince you that, okay, maybe I want to be a client of that coach. And of course, yes, this is still sort of that profit motive where, they're sort of trying to get something out of you, but they're trying to do it a little bit more by building human connections, reaching out, trying to be helpful, trying to actually solve problems that people have. And at the end of the day, that is stuff that you can use. That is stuff that you can get something out of. That is something that is, just sort of meaningful for you in a general sense. And these coaches, they tend to gather more around blogs and long form content, kind of like the stuff that I make. And they're, by definition, going to be a little bit less popular overall because, most people are not going to be drawn towards reading a super long blog post about how muscle works. Yes, of course, There are many of them that are very popular, many that are, way more popular than me, many of them that have a much larger following than, say, some of the lower level sort of athletes. But they're going to be better educated. They're going to have a better handle on how everything works, and they're going to have a better handle on research and how to coach people to actually get results, because that's how they make money. They make money by helping you. And so it's going to be a lot more focused on research and actual results versus just what you're going to see with your typical influencer Instagram type, which is just going to be bro science, what works for them, the things that they do, maybe some low level sort of training and diet advice, but it's not going to be anything good. So that is it for this topic. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you want to see in future videos. I have made up a Curious Cat, or actually revived my old Curious Cat, so that you can send me questions anytime you want. And that way it makes it a little bit easier to have all those questions in one place so I can fit them into the next video. So with that said, on to the Q&A. Alrighty, so this one, Anon asks, my toddler is so heavy that holding them makes me feel like my arms will drop off. How can I get strong enough to haul around a 25-pound chaos demon while constantly in the company of the aforementioned 25-pound chaos demon? As you'll notice, this was 13 days ago. I'm very sorry I took a week off, to Christmas. So I guess the best advice really here would be just lift your toddler. Like, there's no reason that you can't, sort of get strong doing the things that you normally do throughout your daily life, right? This is how a lot of people get strong and get in great shape, is like, you start off with, say, like a physical labor job, and it sucks at first because, you're just sort of tired all the time, and then your body starts to adapt because you're just doing this stuff regularly, and it gets better and it gets better. So I used to have a job where I worked as a delivery person for a fitness equipment company. So I would basically be responsible for sort of hauling treadmills up people's stairs and then installing them, basically setting them up and all that. And some of them were pretty heavy, a few hundred pounds. And so the biggest problem often was just holding on to it. Because sometimes there weren't really good ways to hold on to it. There's just lots of slippery plastic, so you'd wear gloves, but then it would still be a huge challenge on your grip strength, just as much or more so than, just like the actual, demand on your legs and your back and all that. And, there's not really a good way to train for that in the gym because, in the gym, when you're doing grip strength, you're doing stuff, around a bar where you're sort of, holding a fist tight like this. Whereas, when you're carrying a package or when you're carrying a treadmill, you've got something that's more like this and you're trying to keep your fingers, to sort of hold on to something. And, there's not really usually a good way to train that at your local gym because, it's just different muscular patterns. So there wasn't really a good way to train that at all, right? And so the answer here is, why can't you just lift your toddler, Pick up your toddler a lot, just do reps of picking up your toddler, that works. Like, there's no reason that you have to get fancy about it. You can just do the basic stuff of like, well, if it's tiring, then do it a bunch and take a rest and do it a bunch more and take a rest and do it a bunch more. And then just repeat that every single day and you're going to get stronger and you're going to find it easier and easier over time. So that one's kind of simple, honestly, but, send me pictures, send me videos. Like, I want to see this. Very excited to see your tiny chaos demon get lifted into the air. All right. Next question. All right. So if I go to the gym, work what I feel is to exhaustion, failing final reps, but don't really feel sore the next day, did I do something wrong? This is a really important question, and I should do a whole video about this. But here's the important thing, is that basically, no, you didn't do anything wrong, and this is sort of a misconception about how soreness works, because people always think that soreness is basically your indicator of whether or not you're adapting, of whether or not you had a good workout, and it's not. It's actually not that at all. So what soreness is soreness is partly physical, right? So you have some sort of damage to the muscle tissue or some sort of metabolic stress to the tissue. I'm not an expert on exactly what the mixture is there. But basically what happens is that, you have this damage, but then you also have your brain sort of wanting to protect this tissue. So you know that this tissue is damaged. Your brain says, okay, shoot off the alarm bells. Let's, add, some sort of, let's do something to make sure that you're not going to make this worse, right? So it creates this soreness, this pain, this sort of achiness to tell you, it's your body's feedback telling you, hey, don't do that anymore. We need some time to recover. But the thing is that as you get, basically more exercised, as you get more used to this, then what we call the repeated bouts effect starts to set in. So basically that just means that your body starts to adapt to everything, starts to get used to everything, and your brain seeing this and seeing that, it's like, oh, actually this is kind of like what we did before. It's going to go, oh, we don't have to worry about this so much. Everything's fine. We don't have to worry about it. Just go about your daily life. You don't have to worry about protecting that muscle so much simply because, we're more used to this. And, when you get to a certain point where you've been maybe training pretty similarly for a very long time, your body is going to be so used to it that you're really not going to get too much of any soreness at all unless it's, maybe a particularly hard day. So what soreness is really a gauge of more than anything is basically just whether or not something is new, whether or not this is something that your body has seen before, whether or not, this is something that your body is used to. Because basically, if it's something that your body is used to, then it's going to have that repeated bouts effect. It's going to mean that you're, not going to get as sore. You're not going to, be as tired. You're going to recover a little bit faster. When you're trying something very new, maybe it's a new exercise, maybe it's a very new intensity, maybe it's a very new level of volume, total work that you're not used to, that is when that's really going to ratchet up and you're going to have a lot of soreness. You're also going to experience a bit extra soreness if you go away. So if you take like a week or two off of training and then you come back, you're going to be extra sore again because your body has had more time to sort of relax, to get, sort of unaccustomed to that level of activity, and so it's sort of just doing that process all over again. So soreness, again, not necessarily a marker of a good workout. It's just a marker that your body is confused or overwhelmed a little bit. And actually that is a bad thing sometimes, because basically if you are too sore, then that can prevent you from, getting in a solid workout schedule. It may make it harder. I often, maybe I take a week off and I'm a little bit sore the following week when I return, and then that week is a bit hard because then, I'm sort of second guessing, like, okay, do I want to take a workout today or do I want to have an extra day to rest because, I'm just so sore. So it's actually a bad thing more than anything else because it can potentially hold you back. It can potentially throw off your, your workout schedule. So yes, don't go chasing soreness. Not a problem. What matters a lot more over the long term is making sure that your general level of training is increasing over time. So you're doing more sets, you're doing more reps, you're using more weight, etc. Because that is what's going to matter a lot more in the long term in terms of, seeing results and doing something right, as it were. All right, so that is it for this week. As always, like, comment, subscribe, tell me what you want to see in future videos. I will see you all next time.